This week on All About Android, we welcome back Matteo Doni to the show, and he's got the ridiculous Unihertz tank phone, along with the Unihertz TickTock and Nokia G22. We recap the April Fool's gags from Nothing, Razer, and Asus, and lots of app talk as Google launches the new Nearby Share, shuffles Google Assistant staff to Bard, and much, much more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 624, recorded Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, the Bard of Colorado.
Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club Twit. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, plus membership in the Club Twit Discord, a great clubhouse for Twit listeners. And finally, the Twit Plus feed, with shows like Stacy's Book Club, The Untitled Linux Show, The Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.
Welcome to All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Huyen Twit Dao.
And unfortunately, Jason Howell is still on vacation. He hasn't returned yet, but we are very, very lucky to welcome a returning special guest who is filling Jason's chair at this very moment there in the Twit studio. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Matteo Doni. Matteo, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in the studio.
Well, what's fascinating is that you are in the big chair in the studio. You're in the captain's seat. You're in the middle position. So, Matteo, I am just going to hand the whole show to you, and you're going to drive it from here on out. All right?
Well, if you hand me the show, you know what that means.
I do. It's playing with fire or playing with goats.
Exactly. Goats and crazy phones.
Yeah. Well, so we're very excited because you've got, it's your first show with Huyen when you've never done a show with Matteo before, I don't think, right? Or were you on the show?
No, I was on the show, but the first time I ever took off the show, I think, the second time I took off the show was Matteo's last appearance. So I was really sad to miss Matteo. So now, and I think I almost missed this week too, but yeah, I'm here and I'm really
glad you made it. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
Matteo,
extra maybe.
You last joined us in February of 2022, so it's been an entire year. So before we get into stuff, let's catch up a little bit. How you been, Matteo? What's your daily driver phone these days?
Very well. Well, as any proper person who wears cargo pants, I tend to have 4 daily drivers. One is obviously the Google Pixel 7 Pro. That seems to be the best all-rounder for my needs, especially with the camera it has. I then, obviously, for a bit of balance in the force, carry an iPhone 14 Pro. And then whatever I'm reviewing seems to take the other 2 pockets. So at the moment, the Nokia G22, I take it the crickets are for the iPhone. We won't speak about the fruity one anymore. Trust me. So the Nokia G22 is currently one of my review devices, as well as the Unihertz Tank, which I heard mentioned a few weeks ago on AAA. And I do have multiple devices, but 2 tend to be review devices, and then the main one is the Google Pixel 7 Pro. That's the one with the roaming SIM card in and my main phone number in it.
Cool. Well, we are going to get to the Unihertz, as well as you've got some other exciting stuff for us to look at, as well as a tale of woe that we will cover in the hardware section. But we got a packed show this week, so why don't we dive right into the news, and then we'll get on with it. So Burke or Victor or whoever's back there, take it away.
What up, kid? Matteo's in the house. I've been waiting to say that for a long time.
What was that, Victor? It was Victor back on the mic. Welcome back, Victor, in
Thanks.
studio.
And Ron, I know your kids are a little young right now, but you're gonna have to perfect the old man cool sounding voice.
Oh, okay.
For your kids.
I'll work on that.
Like,
okay.
When they get older. But
right.
I don't want to totally derail us from the Android news yet, but I was having a little bit of fun with AI. We talk a lot about AI, and I'll just show it to you.
Oh,
So-
here we go.
The prompt. So if you ask a Stable Diffusion or Leonardo.ai for a goat using a phone, gives you some pretty
dear.
interesting stuff.
What?
Oh dear Lord.
What?
I
What
would
is
be-
happening? What
I
is
would be-
happening?
Oh wait, go back
I'm-
one more break.
Wait,
I'm both.
we got
I'm,
to.
I'm horrified by this, but I'm also disappointed that Midjourney or Leonardo or whatever you use didn't give any photo of Matteo and a goat in this show in any of the artwork from that, because as we've learned with ChatGPT, AI seems to only know what it knows from the internet, and Lord knows we put a lot of goat Android content out there over the years.
Well, there's I tried to customize it for Matteo, and this one here is a goat using a phone with a
The
crocodile.
For the audio stream listeners, I don't have anything for you. I don't the crocodile
Next picture.
looks like it's actually a pelican that has been crossbred with a crocodile
with
or
human
something.
hands.
with human and there's human hands coming out of a goat head, and the phone has also been genetically spliced. Okay, that's it. I've lost the thread. What horror is?
Okay.
Oh, is that
looks
a
like
phone
very-
with a crocodile case?
That
Yes.
looks like
That
a
That is a Android phone or tablet. It looks like it's covered with the skin of a crocodile.
Yes.
But it kind of
Elephant.
melted. Yeah, everything is kind of Dali-esque,
Almost like
as
the, or
Cousin
like the
Josh said.
Necronomicon.
Yes,
Right?
Ex Mortis. Don't read it. Don't read it. Don't open the phone.
And then,
either way, it is stuff of nightmares. That's actually quite.
Oh,
fit.
that's all
That
right.
one's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
safe.
this is a nice goat smiling with a human hand holding a phone in front of it, and the phone background is bright green like Android. That is a decent rendering of a Android phone and a
Something
goat.
going on with its toes, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't. The goat appears
We're
to
going
have
to the next
extra
one.
toes. Okay,
And
next
the
one.
Well,
last
pedicure.
one that's Matteo, or last few
Oh.
that are Matteo related. I think this one is Tech Travel Goat.
Wow.
But
I mean,
there-
this is
actually, no, there's
a highly rendered handsome man who I can only assume is meant to be Matteo with
Yeah.
a goat with very right angle horns coming out of its head while the man is looking
and
at the phone.
the thing down at the bottom right is supposed to be a crocodile. So that's what the AI thinks is a
I
crocodile.
don't think Midjourney knows what a crocodile is. This is also on. The handsome man is crouched down on the beach, presumably on a tropical island, with the goat and with what is not a crocodile, but we'll go with crocodile. It kind of looks like a capuchin mixed with a lizard mixed with.
I will say,
Cousin
Cousin
Small
in the
Demon?
chat room just asked, is that Olivier Giroud, the French soccer player? It does really look like him. So good eye.
Matteo looks just like
That's
that
a really
guy.
good call,
Yeah.
cousin of Jack.
Yeah.
It also happens to be an AC Milan player, so I'm all for that. Now I have a goal for my next 6 years at the
Goal.
gym.
Haha, goal. Ba-dum-bumch.
And last
Oh,
one.
This is
what
disturbing.
else
This
is
is
This is a
this
Tech
is
Travel Goat.
all right. This has got to be the last one, but this is what is it? Anthropomorphized human holding an Android phone with a goat head with not one but 1, 2, 3, 4 horns, 2 of them purple coming out of its head while sitting on a plane. Which I also feel like, Matteo, given your travels and your past career and stuff like that, this is a very accurate one.
That is very, very accurate. Though
Yeah.
not maybe not the part where I'm wearing a tie. But
right. It's a little
apart
too
from that,
formal.
it's a bit too formal for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that is a
yeah.
very good depiction. I will need to see if I can get a copy of that and maybe have a print done. Oh, that's looks as if it's me in
Oh.
the Twit studio.
What's around this? So
I don't even know.
we're-
Okay, we got to do a show, guys. We can't do this the whole night.
Anyway, thank
Oh.
you, AI, for my future nightmares.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you, Victor, for crashing the top of the show. And humor is a related theme because we are recording today on April 4th, Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, which means that this past weekend was, in fact, April 1st, which is affectionately known around the world as April Fool's Day, which historically has been a good, fun day in the tech world. Although, Google used to participate until they stopped doing it during the pandemic, and they have not returned to the battlefield. But there was a couple of a couple of tech Android specific ones that we thought we'd share and just kind of reflect back on this past April Fool's. And the first one was from our friends at Nothing, who posted on Saturday, April 1st, that they were announcing beer, parentheses, 5.1%. And they posted onto Instagram a very bare can of beer, a gray minimalist can that says beer 5.1%. And it says it's technically refreshing. And they say crisp, unfiltered rice lager, carefully crafted for a distinct and drier taste, independently brewed in Wales, UK, Nothing engineer approved, technically refreshing. Sign up for updates at nothing.tech. National minimum drinking age applies. So Matteo, Huynh, if you had to rate this as far as April Fool's jokes, what would you give Nothing for their beer? Good, bad, cringe?
I give it a 4. Sorry, 5.1 would be the ABV. Is that what we're?
Yeah, the ABV. I think it's a play on phone 1 and phone 2 in the parentheses, but the 5.1 is the ABV. Yeah. So
sorry, I'll give it a 4, maybe a 3. It's interesting. I don't know.
So that's 4 or 3 out of 10.
Yes, out of
10. Yeah, let's do out of 10.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to go for an 8.
Wow.
It's not unheard of tech companies doing food products as a marketing push. We've seen food products or rebranded food products to do marketing. Just think back to how many different partnerships Google has done with the Android versions. I've had quite a few Android Kit Kats.
Yep.
So
to be clear, Matteo, this beer is not real.
I know, but it's believable that they would make a Nothing beer, as in.
True.
I would not put it past Nothing to do something similar in the future.
To do something with Nothing. So, all right, cool. Well, that was
something.
Nothing getting in on the joke. All right, the next one up. I actually, I'm gonna preface this that I thought this did make me laugh. Razer. You might remember, the company known for gaming computers and gaming phones, and they bought the Nextbit Robin back in the day. On April 1st, they announced the Razer Razr, which was a mouse and facial hair razor.
I love it so much.
With a complete video explaining that sometimes when you're plugged into the game for so long, you don't have time to take care of yourself, and so that's why they've introduced the Razer Razr.
I'm gonna give this a 9. I have to, because we are. Oh, I was.
So we're watching the video now where the gamer has like hairy eyebrows and overgrown mustache and beard, and now they're showing the mouse, and he is trimming his eyebrows and beard and mustache with his mouse as an electric razor.
Yeah, and it's got a very I'm sorry, not my forte, not my area of expertise, but like a very Gillette style where they're like showing like the little foil, like rollers,
double blades,
double blades. Feel sharp, play sharp. I like it. We are a Razer house. My husband and I are big Razer fans for a long time Razer fans. He has all the Razer things. He also spends an inordinate amount of time in our gaming room, and I could see him totally using this. So I have to give it a 9 out of 10. But you can also manscape
going below the belt there.
You can manscape with the Razer Razor. Yes. Also, my husband has hipster shaving gear, so I think this is great. I need to show this to him after the show. 9 out of 10.
So so you rate this highly then, Huynh, huh?
Yes, but it's kind of geared towards people living in this house, including myself.
Sure.
So not the manscaping. But
so if you had to give it a 1 to 10 rating, what would you give that one?
9. 9.
9. All right, Matteo,
9.
What's your score there?
I'm easily amused, and I find this again quite believable. So I'll give it a 7.
All right, there you go. I give this one a 9 as well. That one, because if it makes me laugh out loud, I'll take it. Although the next one might take the cake, because Asus announced the ROG, Ally, ALY, I guess, Ally handheld gaming PC, which is basically positioned as a Steam Deck killer. But the joke was, this isn't a joke. It's actually an announcement of a product. Asus is actually going to do a portable gaming machine to compete with the Steam Deck. And they just happened to have posted it on April 1st. So it's not a prank.
Well, I now have mixed feelings. Like, what? Well, okay. I mean, okay. Oh, I can't separate my feelings of, oh, this makes a lot of sense. We're obviously seeing a lot of cloud gaming, handhelds. The Steam obviously is doing well. And like, you got like the G Cloud, and Razer has one coming out. So it kind of makes sense. And ROG is great with the hardware. But now I'm just like very distracted by the fact that they decided that it would be a good idea to release this on April 1st. Because now I'm questioning reality.
Nobody believed it, right?
Is it real? I don't know.
To be fair, let's think about it. One of the tools most of us use on a daily basis, Gmail, was also launched on April 1st.
True. So what happened is that at midnight on April 1st, Asus here, I have the tweet if we want to show it. Here, I'll throw it into the doc because I know there's a lot of stuff here. Where is it? There you go. So Asus tweeted at midnight, introducing ROG or whatever. Did it say ROG? What do we say?
It's ROG. It's ROG.
ROG. Introducing ROG's first gaming handheld console. Taking your PC games out of your gaming room is no longer a fantasy. Play wherever you are, wherever you are, whenever you want with the ROG Ally. You never have to stop gaming again, with a link to a page on Best Buy for it. And just basically everybody thought that it was a joke. And then 2 days later, they confirmed that it was actually real.
No, for realsies. We were serious about it, honestly. Yeah. Like, realsies, for realsies. Promise.
So, and it was funny because a lot of people really analyze it because it's announced like Ally or Ally, like ALY could be, a lie, but it is real. It is, it's legit. So more is coming. So if you're looking for a Steam Deck competitor, Asus announced it in a very odd way, but yeah, you can go to Best Buy and put in your email address and find out more about it and get notified. But yeah, it exists. So based on this, I give this one a 10. I love it. So
I agree. Well, April Fools. May it have long life as a product. Sadly, it seems to be running Windows 11 instead of Android.
Oh, that's a mistake. So, oh well. So based on that, Matteo, what would you give this one then?
I will give it a 9. I like the idea that there's some competition in the handheld space, and gaming is definitely something that needs to be more mobile.
Yep. All right. Agreed. And Win, what do you think of that one?
I'll give it a 6. I completely agree. We are also Asus ROG fans here, so we will probably think about buying one, even though we both have Steam Decks. And I think Asus has proved themselves very, capable and consistent with their hardware and their current mobile hardware devices. But I'm just confused. So I'm just confused by who who approved this. So I'm gonna just drop them down 3 points just because I'm confused.
Just for the confusion.
Just because I'm confused. But that's fine. The rest of it is fine. And I look forward to us talking more. Oh, and if it's not Android, then you got to take off another -2 just for the topicality. And also just, Android dev.
It's like the Olympics where they knock off points because they trip or something like that. So
for technical. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, why don't we get to some more serious Android news? Win, why don't you? Some big news dropped or was shared nearby. What exactly happened there?
Oh, good. Yeah. So if you were thinking that, hey, those iOS folks have their AirDrop, which is their technology for allowing you to easily and wirelessly send files between various Apple devices, iPhones, Macs, and otherwise. And you were wondering, wouldn't it be nice if Android had something more like AirDrop? And I mean, we already kind of have it, which has sort of been around for a bit, Nearby Share, which is kind of, a new protocol that utilizes Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to allow you to share, images, files, otherwise between Android devices and also Chromebooks. And it's kind of taken another step to be more of a proper AirDrop, competitor with a recent launch of a Windows 10 beta. So now you have AirDrop beta for Windows 10 and up, and it will allow you to share files between your Android devices and your Windows PC. There are a few caveats about this. So this was launched Friday. It is a beta, so take that as you will. There's probably some weird UI and UX issues. I think I think both Flow and Benching over at 9 to 5 Google, and just noted some little kind of seams. It is beta. Um, it is limited by region, but not by device. So as long as you have a modern computer with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and a 64-bit OS, Windows 10 or 11, not ARM, so like a Surface Duo, you're out of luck for now. Yeah, you can give the beta a try, or you can sign up to give the beta a try. And I mean, generally speaking, between our own Florence Ion and Benching over at 9 to 5 Google, the early feedback has been positive. It, quote, just works. Flo said it, quote, already feels native. It's relatively quick in terms of like the file transfer speed. And yeah, so here you go. If you are an Android user and you have a Windows box and you've really found yourself wanting an easy and very, more seamless way of transferring files rather than, say, plugging in your phone into your PC as a mass storage device and downloading Android file transfer or some other, doing some other solution to, being able to drag and drop files from your PC to your phone or vice versa, you have a lot more of a native experience. Looking at the client, it looks a lot like, the Android experience that we all well know, including things like allowing the PC to have, the same visibility and naming settings that you might think of with just, nearby share on your Android device. So yeah, if that's something you are looking for, seems like it's a really good time to get in on that beta and give it a shot. And then we'll see kind of in the future how that support might expand. 9 to 5 Google, by the way, has a hands-on video if you want kind of a little more like step-by-step blow for blow tour of nearby share for Windows. So is it something that either of y'all are excited about? Sharing files between your Windows computer and your Android device? Takers? Anybody?
As a creator, someone who does a lot of video and uses a Pixel 7 Pro to record a lot of B-roll, I definitely am looking forward to this because my workflow usually involves plugging my phone into my laptop to transfer files over. This will really make my life easier. And thanks to Cousin of Ja, I think that in the chat he has the perfect name for it. It should be called AirDrop.
Yeah. But that gives Apple a little too much credit with the naming thing. But yeah, that is very funny. But what I'm most impressed by this is all the, like, when, as you said, all the positive feedback from everybody who's experienced this hands-on about, how smooth it works and how great it is and how seamless. I mean, Flo's comment about it it seems like it fits and it just like and it just works. Like they really needed to get this right. And it's nice to see that it looks like they did, I don't personally, have a Windows machine anymore. So, sharing from Android to Windows isn't, helpful for me, but the promise of, one day being able to do it to a Mac or to, or just the Android to Android kind of device transferring and stuff like that. If the whole nearby share experience becomes seamless and delightful, then that's just promising for the whole operating system as a whole, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that this is a bit of internal tooling that Google internally has been using for years, and they're now just testing the water of making it more widely available.
Yeah, we talked about the cross-device SDK a few months ago, and Ryan over at Google actually kind of amplified our tweet. And so the cross-device SDK, which we kind of talked about before, is kind of a regathering and reorganizing of a lot of these different kind of connectivity, like functionality, whether that's Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and even kind of bringing in modern concepts like shared sessions, being able to transfer some kind of authentication session from your phone to your TV cross devices. And that SDK actually does, at least in terms of like looking at the documentation, giving it a cursory glance, is meant to support non-Android devices like Windows and like iOS. So hopefully, as you said, this is going to be just taking some of those nice things that they had kept to themselves to do, some of the, this integration work that, only Google has been doing. And hopefully, this might be an example or just a better, direction forward for any kind of cross-device, communication and experiences. Yeah, it's really cool that they got it right. But sometimes Google gets things right, but they sometimes also get things wrong. In the vein of file sharing or cloud files. I can't think of a good segue there, but there was something very interesting that happened, interesting in a bad way. So Google had silently introduced a file limit on your Google Drive. Now, this was a huge limit of 5 million items, which is probably for the average user, maybe the average non-content creator or someone who's not really generating a lot of files or data. That seems not too bad, but it was done silently, and it actually became quite controversial because it was not transparent at all. It was opaque AF, I guess I can say. And also it's weird because of the nature of this limit. The people that were running into this limitation, which by the way wasn't clearly communicated, all that these people that were hitting this 5 million file limit could see was that, they got a warning that they can no longer upload or create files. And that's it, no explanation. So it was absolutely opaque. And what's interesting is that the people that got hit hardest by this file limit are people that are paying for the 2 terabyte, 5 terabyte tiers. So not only was this not communicated well, and the user experience also, again, was the follow-up was also very opaque. It was hitting people that are actually paying probably the most, upwards of $25 a month for storage. So people didn't like it. People don't like it when you take away their things and you don't tell them about it. Especially when they're the folks that are paying you the most money. So Google acknowledged the mistake, and in April 3rd tweet, they said that they are going to, remove the limit, and they're going to kind of, again, as Google likes to say when they do a bad, they're going to take this, think on it some more, mull over the mistakes, and continue working on, improving experience while trying to, and for, and I think that there's a reasonable, in my personal opinion, there's probably a reasonable, balance here of giving people all the storage, but also having to, as a company that is the one maintaining and paying for, the actual storage stability and performance and all that kind of stuff. So they did apologize for that, and they said in a follow-up tweet, if we need to make changes, we will communicate them to users in advance. So I don't know. Were they right to implement a limit? Is it just that they communicated it badly? Was it because it's kind of attacking their highest paying? What do y'all think? Was this unreasonable?
Well, yeah, I think that I think to your point, like to the average user, this probably would never even encounter 5 million files. But also when you think about it, I've been using Google Drive for over a decade, right? So like that files add up. They definitely would impact it. I do think that we've seen the slow, kind of like, remember when everything was free and like you had unlimited storage and it was Google and it was great. And we've seen the slow degradation of that to get more, wrap more arms around it. We see Google One introduced to add more storage and, charging and that sort of thing. And so, I'm not surprised to see that this happened, but it's embarrassing to see how it played out in terms of like quietly putting it out there and then people calling them on it. I mean, Matteo, you're self-subscribed creator there. I gotta imagine you rely on Google Drive a lot, don't you?
I do, yes. I use Google not only as a creator, but also for some of my stuff in home automation. As in, I have little reports dumped to my Google Drive regularly, and then I have something else that goes and reads them. So I haven't actually encountered this issue, but I was surprised to hear that there was one, because I had just read through Google Drive and Google One documentation. I am a 2 terabyte Google One subscriber and had never seen anything about a file number limit.
Yeah.
So this is surprising to me, but it's good that they've fixed it eventually. At the end of the day, these consumer products are often used by important organizations. For example, it's not a Google issue, but the UK government during the pandemic was keeping all its stats for the daily briefings on an Excel sheet. And at some point they ran out of columns or rows. I think it was actually rows. They ran out of rows to be able to share or capture that data, and that's became an issue. But at least Microsoft had informed their users in the really fine print about the limitations to Excel, whereas we didn't know about that in Google Drive. But I usually upload files which are over 1 gigabyte in size because it's video, it's 4K video, and so I was going to be unlikely to hit that anytime soon.
Yeah, it's just, and good on Google for owning it, right? And making the adjustment and rolling it back. But I feel like this is going to boomerang back, or there's going to be some sort of limit. The number of files is a weird number.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As opposed to storage. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I could have 5 million 15K text files and I'd hit that limit versus 5 million, 3 gig, video files, right? Like it's like, and they claim, performance and capacity and all stuff like that, but the number of files is an odd thing.
But to be fair, they are an entity, and so they have to be sort of indexed somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So
yeah.
In a database, it's natural to have a potential limit there.
Yeah. So it's very strange. Well, as far as strange things being afoot at Google, here we are. It is early April, and everybody's all excited for the monthly Pixel update. And sure enough, it's late, and this marks 2 months in a row that the Pixel update is being late. And this was as of yesterday. It still hadn't rolled out yet, so it may have started rolling out at this point, because Google did post the Pixel update bulletin April 2023 on the Google website with the full factory and OTA images. That was all posted yesterday, but at the time of reporting, carriers have yet to detail. They haven't detail the carrier support of it, and hasn't actually rolled out to it. Now that said, there's little expectation this is going to be a big patch or a big security patch or upgrade, since Android 13 QPR2 rolled out last month, and that was a big one. And the next feature drop isn't scheduled until June. But still, the fact that it's April 4th and it hasn't rolled out yet, it's weird. Like this used to be on clockwork. Like, what's going on? And then you add on to the fact that last week it actually did roll out to one user. Last week, with no other reported people getting it, but someone got it on a Pixel 5 a week ahead of schedule, which one has to assume something went wrong with internal testing. But it just seems like what's going on over there, Google? Everything okay? Like, can you check in? Like, what's the deal? So
I want to know the mechanics of that. Just as a developer, how does one person on a Pixel 5 get an update? I just want to understand the mechanics of that. I don't really know much about OTA, but yeah.
Not only that, how does one person on a Pixel 5 get the update, and how does it make the blogs? How does that one person know to go post to Reddit or XDA and have it get picked up by writer? Like, that's what always baffles me. Like, when one person gets something that's like, there's a needle in a haystack. How do you find that? But sure enough, here we are. They do. So, I don't know. I mean, devil's, devil's advocate, give Google a break. It's they've done the work. It's coming out. The carriers will roll it out. Everybody's just like, breathing for these monthly updates, but like this, there's nothing planned that's major for this one. Patching, it's not like there's a huge, 0-day patch or something like that that's needed. So I don't know. It'll roll out. This might be much ado about nothing. I don't know. Matteo, you use so many phones. How were you waiting, by your phone yesterday to see if the monthly update rolled out to your Pixel, or?
No, not at all. And just before the show, I checked on my Pixel 7 Pro to see if there was an update. There was nothing there. As with all security updates, I believe there might be something going on in the background we don't know about yet, and I trust Google will include as much as possible in the update. When it's ready, it's ready. I would prefer to wait a few extra days to get something slightly better than it could have been. That's just me being an old grumpy person who's been through multiple.
You old grumpy? No.
No. As a developer, I very much appreciate that sentiment, because there's always pressure to get it out faster rather than better. So as a developer, I appreciate that statement. As a consumer, I get a little less patient, but that is just the two sides of the coin. So yes, I appreciate old man grumpiness when it comes to getting it right.
But also, as someone who supports software, I will say that it's always best to deal with a better release than a release and a quick hotfix shortly afterwards.
Yes, I have. Yes, I've been. Yes.
You gotta have feelings about that, right, Wynn?
No, I don't want to necessarily. I was on a team where we had to hotfix 3 or 4 times in a day, and I think a lot of that was like we were a small team. And there was less process on that team, less rigor on that team, and I think we had a manual tester. And I think all of us were at a conference, and so it was just a bad week for us to have a release. And I think that the hot fix was necessary, right? So we had to get this out. So there was pressure. We hot fixed like 3 or 4 times because we figured, okay, now we have it. We sort of tested it. Again, our tester was with us at the conference. So no, it's weird because in the moment you're doing these things, and like I can sit back now as like a 40-year-old developer, be like, yeah, that wasn't the best idea. And of course, we all the next day figured, yeah, that was not the best way to handle that. But when you're in the moment and you want to make sure that your app is, you're like minimizing downtime for your customers, you want to minimize 1-star reviews. It's tough. It is tough, and I think that sometimes it does take someone to just say, hey, like we need to pause, and just do it the right way. And that can be surprisingly very, very hard depending on, who's telling you what to do, your stakeholders and who your bosses are and who's managing you. It can be really hard. So it's when you're under pressure, sometimes common sense or the better option goes out the way, like just kind of leaves your head and you just kind of respond to the pressure. Anyway, I sympathize, and I'm going to stop ranting about that because that wasn't a great day.
This is becoming a sort of developer therapy group, Gwen.
It is. I think I
has.
accidentally a little bit, but I mean, anyway. Yeah. So, there was actually some ado about something that we talked about last week. I was trying to segue a little closer to your much ado about something. So, last week with Flo, we kind of covered an interesting little back and forth where there was some reports from, fairly trusted and consistent leakers/informants like Max Jambor and Snoopy Tech about Oppo and kind of like some of its sub brands like OnePlus leaving leaving Europe, UK, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. But then very quickly that was kind of disavowed, or kind of Oppo released a statement saying, no, we don't have any plans to leave Europe. And then now we have another kind of nugget of information coming out that really, what was happening is that due to some legal action with Nokia in Germany, Oppo is temporarily halting operations in Germany. So it feels like, we kind of covered the story because there felt like, we cover leaks all the time. We cover, kind of the rumor mill a little bit. And this seemed like a very odd, misstep for a lot of people that, have generally been on the mark. And we kind of were trying to pontificate on why might that be? What might that be? So I don't know. Does this make sense that maybe this, is it this just legal action in Nokia and Oppo did a bad job at kind of making a clear statement? Or do y'all still think there's something nefarious, hitting my mic, going on?
So
I don't know.
I wanted to get Matteo's take on this because being our, man of the continent on the other side of the Atlantic, you're kind of closer. You're kind of closer to it. Like what do you smell any smoke with this Oppo OnePlus story? Or
I think there is. Let's face it, Oppo and their parent company BKK are a massive organization, and it's even in the best of times, organizations that size will have contingencies plans. They'll have teams of people dedicated to working on contingency plans if anything were to happen. And the lawsuit that Nokia have taken against that group has been ongoing for quite a while now. So they probably had the plans all in place and circulated some internal documentation saying we need to be ready for this if it were to go south. And that's probably what got leaked to Max, and he then announced that. I think that's what's happened. But I've reached out to someone I know in the group. I have not had a confirmation of what I've heard, but this seems to be what's happening in my view. And I think it's normal, as in we've had multiple cases of that. Sony, for example, didn't sell smartphones in the US because of ongoing issues regarding patents on certain components they were using, or they released products that didn't have fingerprint scanners. It's quite common for these sort of back channel conversations to be happening, for the contingency plans to be made up. And I think that someone leaked the wrong thing at the wrong time, but it's still too early to say because these product launches are not expected for a while. We already knew that the Oppo X6 Pro or 6X Pro was due not to be released in Europe anyway. So this may be the backstory that we were missing.
Interesting.
So we'll see
Yeah,
what
like we
happens. It's big business is happening in the background. The legal conversations are active. We know that. And it may just be Oppo saying, well, rather than selling our phones in Europe, we just won't sell them. And Nokia, you won't get any of the patent money at all. So it might just be a negotiation tactic as well.
Yeah, like we talked about last week, and I agree with you, is that like that rumor was too. There had to, like, there was some smoke, there was some fire to match the smoke. There had to have been, right? And I think Matteo, your observations are pretty correct, or close there. It always comes down to business, and always comes down to either patents or licensing or like the things that drive revenue, right? And so, yeah, so I wasn't surprised to hear this, and I imagine this is going to continue to develop. We'll probably hear more of it. So, all right, cool. All right, well, that was a lot of news for the week, but the wait is over. Matteo is the man with the devices in his cargo pants, so let's jump into hardware. Here it is. It is Matteo's Hardware Shack. Mr. Matteo, what do you got for us first up?
Right then, first up, I have the Unihertz tank. Now, I heard you mention this recently on the show when I was listening at home. The Unihertz tank is from a plucky little startup in Hong Kong called Unihertz, who to most of us is unknown, but for those in the know is a company who really riff quite hard on hardware. And they really do crazy stuff. The Unihertz tank is special because it's quite the chonk. Now, I apologize in advance. I do not have a banana for scale here, but it is a thick, heavy phone, which is unapologetic about weighing more than half a kilo. This half kilo is probably due to the fact that it has a 22,000 milliamp hour battery. So, for a bit of context, that's more than 4 times the battery capacity of the Google Pixel 7 Pro. Now, attached to that power bank, you have a pretty decent smartphone. This is a device with an LCD display with a dot or a cutout for the selfie camera in the top left-hand side of the screen. In terms of battery, I last charged this. I took it off charge on, I took it off charge on Wednesday last week. So it's been almost 7 days, and it's still at 58% charge.
You're get out, Matteo. Get 58%.
It's still at 58%. But to be fair, I have not had a SIM card in it. I accidentally picked up the wrong SIM card at Walmart and got one of the Verizon compatible ones. It has only been used on Wi-Fi. But I would say a week's charge on a smartphone is more than most people can ask for. As well as that, it has an IP68 rating, which means it can resist dust and water up to a certain amount. That is achieved by actually having a rubber lip that I'm putting my fingerprint in to show you off the USB Type-C port for fast charging and a Courage port. That is a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. So yes, you have a Courage port and USB Type-C. The 22,000 milliamp hour battery is charged rapidly with a 66 watt charger. And obviously a 22,000 milliamp hour battery is quite big. So it will probably generate a lot of heat, but I haven't really noticed that because I've slow charged it overnight when I needed to charge. Now, obviously the power is not just for the phone. At the back, you have a triple set of cameras, which is quite handy. So you have a main sensor, which, let me just check the spec here. The main sensor is, in this case, I think it's a 64 megapixel sensor, but it has a 20 megapixel infrared camera. So, Victor, if you've got the link in the spreadsheet, we have some examples of Burke in the Twit studio in the server room, in the TriCaster room, there's a link there that shows you the pitch black picture, and then Burke in the server room taken with an infrared camera. The way this 20 megapixel sensor works is that it actually shoots infrared lasers from the bottom here, bounces that laser off, and then captures a black and white image. So this is my kitten Ronan. In pitch black, I could not see anything. It still managed to see a slightly angry kitten looking at me. And that's one example. And then we have the picture of Burke in the Twit studio in the cupboard. It was pitch black. If you go right one, you'll see this is what the main sensor saw at the same time. So really, really interesting camera setup. I think this is mainly aimed at the construction industry, but I could be wrong. If you can think of a reason why you would want an infrared camera on your phone, please do let us know. But that's a really cool one. And then there's that all-important sticker camera. It's a 2 megapixel macro camera, which is, in my view, completely useless. But it looks good on a spreadsheet.
I
who is
love this phone.
Who
don't
is this
know,
phone
but I
for?
want it.
Well,
aside from Win, who is this phone for?
I didn't say it was for me, but I wanted. I imagine, like, I don't know, just back, super like rugged outdoor, like places where you have to actually get in a Jeep, like a proper Jeep, and like ford across the river, because you don't have to charge it very long. So if you're out, if you're not near an outlet or some power source, it has infrared cameras. So if you need to be like adventuring at night, or you're like chasing, if you're, I don't know, an animal documentarian, wildlife documentarian, I love it. And it's got that big old like light in the back.
Yes, so,
which, I mean, you should always have headlamps, but yeah.
I mean, torch enthusiasts are a thing. The Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel has regular torch and flashlight reviews because travelers do use them. This one has the usual LED flash torch, which you can activate by long pressing the custom button at the back. So it's a normal LED light. As you can see here, it works just the same as most smartphone torches work. But then you have this massive panel at the side. I believe that's what is it? We've got it in the spec sheet here. It looks 1,000 lumen lamp, which you long press the other button for. And I'm going to have to look away here.
That's ridiculous.
Oh,
Wait a minute! Look at it.
Oh my gosh!
It's a 1,000 lumen lamp at the back.
So
of the
for our audio listeners, there is a trapezoid shaped panel on the back of this phone that lights up like a flashlight.
This is a proper camping lamp. This is amazing. So part of my vacation is here in California is that my wife and I are planning to go to Humboldt County. I'll switch that off now because I can't see anything. We're going to Humboldt County where there's very little light pollution to do some nighttime photography with Google Pixel phones. And whilst we're at it, I'm going to try out this amazing torch lamp phone, which I think is for outdoor people as much as construction worker people. But I think the real audience for this, real consumer base for this smartphone is people who live maybe in rural areas or regions where there's not regular access to electricity, where the cost of illumination or just generally the life comforts that most of us have are not always available. This phone will probably solve a lot of problems for people who live in different parts of the world without regular access to electricity. That's my take on it. Unihertz do this as the tank, and they do a lot of really interesting phones similar to this. One of the things I like about it is Unihertz are using the side-mounted fingerprint scanner. It's not under the screen. It's much more accessible in my view. So you just pop your finger on the scanner and it unlocks the phone. It's really good. So overall, I'm obviously not at Gwen's levels of fitness, but my hands are a lot stronger after the last few weeks of using this phone. And once you get used to it, it's actually a great little phone for gaming too. So I've been playing Call of Duty. That's probably due to the Helio 6789 chipset, which is also known as a Helio G22 chipset, which is perfectly good for everyone's day-to-day use. The only thing it lacks is 4K video recording, in my view, but that's just me as someone who creates video for YouTube. For everything else, it's a good phone. It works well. The problem is that if you live in the US, you won't be able to use it on Verizon or similar networks. It's a GSM sort of standard or GSM base phone, which interestingly doesn't require a SIM ejector tool. You just pop your fingernail underneath to take out the dual SIM slot and pop it back in. It has a nice rubber gasket to keep the waterproofing, and that just goes back in next to the infrared blaster. So you can also use it as a TV remote control if you can't find your remote control or your batteries run out. So Unihertz Tank, great the device. I'm really enjoying my time with it. And I'll likely carry on using it in the future because I can use it as a power bank to charge other phones if needed.
You could power your house for a day or so. Like, gee, it's like a generator. That's
I wonder if I can reverse charge a Tesla with it or similar electric car.
This is the
That's
phone for the
amazing.
zombie apocalypse. This is when the infrastructure of our society has fallen and, we only have far distant powering stations. This is the phone for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
I'm going to get one as part of my zombie apocalypse prep. That's a little bit.
So
That is, it also is also a tool for natural selection. If you were to be using this in bed and drop it on your face, that would be one way you could hurt yourself with it. The other is it has a nice little lanyard strap here where you can put a lanyard through it and wear it around your neck and probably snack
Or
your
use
neck
it
at
as
the
a
same
melee
time.
weapon.
yeah.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Both. Put it
So
on
it's
the
spin it
lanyard
around,
and then
right?
spin it around. Exactly. But
So
I don't know what kind of weapon that is.
Well, Matteo, I mean, clearly this phone is packed with features. It must be expensive, right? I mean, how much does this thing cost?
Well, expensive is a relative term, but I would say for $369, this is a bargain. You get
What?
a power bank, a phone, an infrared camera, a camping torch light, and a remote control, as well as a smartphone, all bundled in one device.
369, that's unreal. That's ridiculous. How does this exist in this world? Oh, man.
But it is a lovely, lovely device. And Unihertz are not only doing crazy stuff in this space. The next device I have here, and I'll put it next to the Unihertz Tank, this is the Unihertz TickTock S. Now, one thing that I should probably explain is that Unihertz do some pretty crazy stuff with phones. They try a form factor, and then they just add letters at the end of it. So this is the TickTock S, which is the third iteration on the TickTock form factor, which is a normal smartphone at one side. As with the Tank, you have your side-mounted fingerprint scanner, volume rocker, two custom buttons which can be programmed within the OS, and infrared port at the top. At the bottom, you don't get a Courage port, but you get the little plastic flappy bit with USB Type-C. And at the back of the rugged construction, you get what is a little glass screen at the side, which you can turn on. I've programmed one of the quick action buttons to turn on the smartwatch feature. Now, essentially,
it's the TikTok, not in the social media platform, but in the fact that there's a watch on the back of it.
It is, and I've spent a
goes
lot of
TikTok.
time. I've spent a lot of time with this device and its previous iteration, the TickTock E, and investigating how this works. Now, my gut feel is that there was a lot of not quite smartwatches left over in the Chinese market a few years ago, and they just bought them all up. Essentially, what this is similar to the Huawei watch. Remember that watch, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, separate operating system, not Android's Wear or Wear OS. It was running its own operating system, which I believe is known as Lite OS. So it can control the music on your phone. It can have a compass in it, which is quite handy if you're out in the wild and needing to know your bearing. It has this camera option, which allows you to use the rear screen to take to take pictures of you using the main sensor. So it's essentially a rear screen, facing screen. Now, the way I know that this is a separate device, it's not actually an integral part of the smartphone, is I'm demonstrating this here. You tap on the camera option, and it doesn't actually let you take a picture if the camera app in the phone is open. That's because you're using the camera API, trying to use the camera API when it's already engaged with another application. So I'll close all apps on the phone and then lock the phone. If we tap on the camera there, you can see I can take a selfie of myself using the screen. So it's a handy feature. If you want the best
So
selfies
cute.
your phone can take, use the main camera. And that's a 48 megapixel main sensor. It's a pretty decent camera. And then there's another little 2 megapixel macro camera, which is a sticker camera. So this is even more affordable. It's about $260. It's a great smartphone. It's rugged. It's waterproof. It doesn't have a Courage port, sadly, but for $269, you get a decent smartphone with an outstanding rear screen, which would stand out. If you want to make a statement about being different, the Unihertz TickTock S does do quite a good job at that.
They're pricey. They're affordable. The price is right on these wacky Unihertz phones. I just want to sit in on a brainstorming R&D meeting at Unihertz where they're like, wait a minute, what if?
Well, the crazy thing is, I've had the pleasure of doing something pretty close to that, and going and visiting a few of these sort of startups in Southeast China, and it is pretty much like they say. A lot of software companies say, well, you need to have pretty much continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous releases. They're pretty much doing the same thing with hardware, with weekly releases of products. So I'm all for it. This is the sort of craziness that then brings great things to the world. And hopefully Google will be watching this saying, this is great. This is what we're here to do. We're enabling these companies to worry about the hardware, whilst we do most of the work with the software. Having said that, one of the downsides of Unihertz is their software updates. They have lots of custom hardware. They're using mainly MediaTek chipsets. So in terms of security updates and software updates, it's not great. But their products do solve a problem, and most people buying these phones don't really care if they're getting the monthly security update from Google for Android. On that note, the sort of people who buy the next device will probably believe the marketing and purchase, in this case, the Nokia G22. This is the repairable, affordable smartphone from Nokia, which, in terms of specs, I think you ran through them recently on the show. It's an affordable smartphone around about $170, $180. It has a 50 megapixel main camera. It has a 6.7-inch screen. But when it comes to updates, they used to promise regular updates in the marketing before launch. I'm sitting here on April 4th, 2023, and it's sitting on the January 5th, 2023 security update. So in terms of software updates, HMD Global, who are the company who make Nokia smartphones, sadly have a really bad track record in promising a lot of monthly or quarterly security updates to their smartphones and not delivering them. And I've been covering Nokia for years at this point. Sadly, they promise a lot on their website, but don't deliver. Maybe it's just because I'm in the UK and I have a UK SIM card in the devices, but that's something that I'm quite concerned about, is they're promising those security updates which never seem to be delivered regularly. Whereas Google maybe delay them, they definitely give us the updates. And in my experience, at the moment, the best company for Android updates seems to have become Samsung after years of being the worst.
Yep.
So,
agreed.
The cool thing about this phone is that it's affordable. It has a nice big screen. It works well. It's running on a chipset or a system on a chip made by a company called Unisoc. And I think this is an important thing to look back at the pandemic for. We had supply chain issues. Qualcomm couldn't make chips fast enough. MediaTek couldn't make chips fast enough. And so along came Unisoc, who were best known for making chipsets and systems on chips for TV set-top boxes, for cable set-top boxes. They came along and started using their 28 nanometer chips for smartphones. And in the entry level, in the sort of sub $100 space in the market, that actually works really, really well. So they've been filling that gap in the market. And even Nokia or HMD Global have now started using Unisoc chipsets. And in terms of performance, you only get full HD or 1080p video recording, but you get a perfectly functional phone, which for most people is more than enough. The other key feature of this smartphone, apart from price, is the repairability. This is an iFixit device where if you were to break the screen or damage the device, you can take it apart and replace it yourself. So you should have kits available from iFixit to replace the battery on the phone and to replace the screen. Now, I haven't had reason to do that yet, but at some point on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel, I will be breaking this phone to then go through the fixing process. I might actually drop the Unihertz tank on it. What do you think, Ron? Do you think that's a feasible use case?
I think so. I think that's a good
idea. So if I
idea.
drop this on the screen, I'll
Put
then
the
have
lanyard
an
on
excuse to get
first.
the iFixit kit, which is what you need
My boots
to
are
repair
also
this
available.
yourself.
Just
So
in
it should
case you
be
didn't know.
easily repairable, which is commendable. I'll just need to make sure I'm filming in slow motion at 120 frames per second, capturing that drop of the Unihertz tank onto the phone.
Jeez.
So
All right. Well, so Nokia, Unihertz, Tank and TickTock, some interesting stuff. Real quickly, Matteo, you've had some adventures with Android Auto while you've been here in the States.
I have. So at home in the UK, I am a regular user of Android Auto. I have a Fiat 500 little car which has Android Auto. It just works seamlessly with both my phone, my wife's phone, I should say my phones, plural. And it's a great system. I love Android Auto and I use it as much as I can when driving because it's safer and solves a lot of problems in my life, such as messaging whilst driving. So we had our car rental when we arrived at Los Angeles International Airport, picked up a 2022 Chevrolet Malibu, which I call Stacy, and it has Android Auto. And I was really, really frustrated because I couldn't get my Google Pixel 7 Pro to work in it. So it supports wireless Android Auto, wired Android Auto. I've tried 12 cables. I've tried using the wireless Android Auto. My Pixel 7 Pro just won't work. The Nokia and the Unihertz phones work, but not the one with my good SIM card in it.
Ironically, the Unihertz one works, of course.
Yes.
Like the Unihertz slows the car down several miles per hour
Oh.
because
Yes,
it's
my
so
fuel
heavy.
efficiency will be terrible
Yes.
because of the Unihertz tank. But we couldn't work out
gotta
why.
charge it,
Even
too.
my wife's Google Pixel 6 Pro worked great. And then I figured out what was happening. It was VPN. If you have a VPN service on, apparently it stops Android Auto from working. And this is completely new to me because in the UK, I don't have this problem. I can run Surfshark, ExpressVPN, NordVPN, and Windscribe with no issues, and it just works. Whereas when I come to the US, when those services are on, or maybe it's the Chevrolet Malibu, maybe that's why that's happening. But it was quite a head scratcher, and sadly, it drained my wife's data allowance for this trip. We'll probably need to top up her eSIM as a result, but that's an interesting learning that I had on this trip so far with regards to Android Auto. Turn off your VPN if you have a Chevrolet Malibu or you're having issues with Android Auto. That will likely solve the problem. But as always, I always recommend using VPN when you're connecting to public Wi-Fi services. It's the best practice when traveling.
For sure.
Amen.
All right. Well, sorry it hasn't worked as smoothly, but luckily that Unihertz works. So there you go. So Well, that was a fun journey into Matteo's hardware shack, goat shack. But a couple other quick hardware notes to get through real quickly. And Matteo, actually, this one I'm curious to hear what you think of. The Motorola Edge 40 Pro was announced earlier today, and it's going to be aimed at Europe and Latin America. Pricing out at 899 euros, about $982 in US dollars. And it could come to North America this year. And it just seems like everybody has been very excited about this phone. It's running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It's got 3 rear cameras, 50 megapixel primary, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and 12 megapixel portrait on the rear, with a 60 megapixel primary camera on the front. It's got a 165 hertz refresh rate, 6.67 inch display. It looks beautiful. This seems, this is Motorola doing the flagship. We've talked recently about Motorola doing mid-range and affordable, and here they are with a flagship. Matteo, is this phone worth up to all the hype?
I haven't had hands-on time with it. I'm glad to see Motorola doing a proper flagship again. I really hope the cameras live up to the marketing hype. In the past, with Motorola Edge branded devices, I've been a little bit disappointed by the quality of the cameras in actual use. On paper, it looks great. It looks like it's got a great main sensor, but more importantly, it has a proper 50 megapixel ultra wide sensor, which is great not only for video but also for stills if you're trying to use that ultra wide to either make your cat look like a giant or to get really good architecture or landscape shots. So on paper, this all looks great. I'm a bit ambivalent. I don't feel great about Motorola as a brand. I think the Lenovo side of the Lenovorola name has taken over, and they're a bit more limited in what they're doing in terms of their product development. They're still doing great in their key markets on the affordable segments. I just see them half-heartedly working on flagships. So I really want to spend some time with this device to be able to pass judgment.
Sure. All right. Well, we'll see. And we'll see. It's going to be available in Europe soon and might be coming to North America. So we'll definitely see if the Motorola flagship is up to snuff. And then there was another phone announcement already this week. Wynn, what do you got?
Yeah, so today actually, OnePlus had their, hold on, I want to get this right, their larger than life, a OnePlus Nord launch event, which by the way, if you start the live stream, there is a inordinate amount of weird screaming at the beginning, which was very surprising to me when I was watching things for the segment and for the show. But yeah, earlier today, April 4th, OnePlus officially launched the mid-range Nord CE3 Lite. It is a 6.72 inch 120 hertz full HD plus Rockin MLS display, Rockin phone. It carries the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695, up to 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, and not quite as big as the tank, but a sizable 5,000 milliamp battery with 67 watt super. Is it Super Vogue? Super VOOC? How do you pronounce that? Is it Super Vogue? Super Vogue charging. It has a Courage port and a 108 megapixel main sensor. That's an audio jack, by the way, in case you were just wondering what I was just talking about there, and what we've mentioned before. And also a 2 megapixel secondary depth sensor for adding that, nice, slightly artificial, but always lovely portrait bokeh effect. There's a 60 megapixel hole punch selfie camera, and this phone will ship with Oxygen OS 13.1, which is based on Android 13. And with the Nord CE3 Lite, you will get two full OS updates, and we'll see about security updates. Unfortunately for now, they couldn't really tell. And it does come in 2 very nice colorways: pastel lime, which just looks very festive, and a chromatic gray. And then to go with your Nord, CE3 Lite. For your mid-range phones, we also got the reveal of the Nord Buds 2, which are very much like the original OG Nord Buds, a budget-friendly option. But this time, you're getting noise cancellation and a bit of a jump in price. So the Nord Buds 2 will come with noise cancellation that will drive the price up 50% for that noise cancellation from all the way from $39 US to a whole stinking $59 US. So still hyper affordable in regards to buds, but it is a significant increase. A lot of the design is the same. It has the same 12.4 millimeter drivers as the previous version. And it does have the same base 7 hours of battery life. Now that is without noise cancellation turned on. If you are using noise cancellation, you'll be able to get 5 hours out of it. And yeah, it's still IP55 rated. Got Bluetooth, got OnePlus Fast Pair. Design of the case is mostly the same, just has a little softer edges to make it easier to go in and out of your pants pockets, cargo or otherwise. So yeah, a couple of things from OnePlus for y'all, and we like us some mid-range phones and some affordable accessories to go with. So there you go. The OnePlus larger than life event pack in some really good mid-sized goodies. So there you go.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like
Not
that
sure
color.
what I did that fishy face, but yeah, sure. Yeah, I love the color too.
the
Matteo, what's your take on the Nord?
Oh, sorry. The mid-range musketeer in me is very, very happy at the moment. We have quite a good selection of affordable smartphones in that price range. For example, the Honor Magic 5 Lite, which I've just finished reviewing, is running on the same Snapdragon 6 series chipset and is a really good smartphone. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this device and seeing how OnePlus handle it. But on paper, it looks like a third-tier chipset from Qualcomm. In day-to-day use, most users will think they're using a flagship. It is really a great platform to build a smartphone on. And knowing OnePlus, they'll have made the experience quite delightful. So more mid-range phones at this price point offering those feature sets. And more importantly, the Courage port is good news for me.
Yep. All right. So that was fun hardware time. And now we're going to get into a couple quick apps things. So let's do the apps. So this first story actually caught, a little banter here, all about Android HQ as we were talking about it today. There's been a lot we've been talking about on the show for the past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of much ado about ChatGPT and AI and the effect of it. And Google released their response to ChatGPT called Bard, which doesn't stand for anything, as we discussed on last week's show. But here we are with some news coming out of Google as a leaked memo revealed that they are shuffling a bit of the staff on the Google side of things. And then actually the team behind Google Assistant is going to be shifting over to focus on Bard. Actually, specifically, one of the longtime VPs of Google Assistant is leaving the company for personal reasons, and another engineering vice president is shifting over to Bard. And now, initially, my thought was like, well, we often blur the lines on this show between what is Android specific and what is Google specific, right? Because it's hard to talk about Android without talking about Google, but it's very easy to fall down the rabbit hole of talking about Google and have it had nothing to do with Android, right? I mean, I feel like we toe that line a lot. I mean, Twit also has This Week in Google, right, which covers all things Google, but sometimes it's hard to separate the two. And my thought was like, well, Bard really isn't Android specific. Let's not put it in the show this week. But actually, as we were chatting, our own Florence Ion chimed in, and her point that I wanted to make on the show here was that that this actually is very Android specific because they're consolidating the teams, and considering that Assistant is such a big part of Google's business, it eventually will have a downstream effect and will absolutely affect Android because it's gonna eke its way into the user interface, and it's going to affect how people interact with their phones. And this all shows that Google is shifting the focus from Assistant to Bard as an AI-based kind of platform, and what that means for the future of Android and the future of Assistant and the future of everything that we do comes into play. Now, a lot of that is conjecture. Who knows where it's going to go? But it seems pretty impactful for all things that Google is doing in terms of taking what is seen as one of their more successful teams with Assistant, despite my battles with Assistant on my Google Home, which go on a daily basis. It is ridiculous. But just try requesting a song on YouTube Music on your Google Home with Assistant. It's maddening. But shifting them over to Bard shows this kind of investment in AI. When I'm super curious to hear what your take on this is and what kind of what you think this means about the future of Google's kind of software development.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because, and to kind of give some background, I think all of us in the Android,
I can't
oh, sorry.
go wrong or
Um, I think all of us in the Android dev space have, you know, had some meeting or some conversation with a PM about is there a way that we can all leverage Assistant? Because it seems like the drive is to, having this conversational, natural language way of interfacing with not just your phone, but the apps and the content within it, right? And up until now, I think for a third-party app, a non-Google app, basically, it's been really difficult to do that because it's a whole other kind of level of experience of product design, of effort that needs to be done on top of like the regular application development. And it's interesting because I think when it comes to Android development, I've mentioned this a lot, if the ROI is not there, we're going to, whether we like it or not do a thing. And so I think that because of the effort that Assistant has required to make third-party apps integrate with it, and the fact that even the avenues that devs have had to integrate with Assistant are a little bit still primitive, I guess, and still like not, like Assistant has kind of tried to gear itself to be more conversational. Was it like 2 years ago at the first Corona Google I/O where they had like someone talking to the planet Pluto or something, and so there's this like kind of move to making communicating with your devices more like having a conversation. It's been like that for a while, but it's not something that I feel that most third-party devs even feel like is an option or feel like it's like a big, it would be a big driver for business. It just feels like the APIs feel kind of rudimentary or just take a lot of work to really make them sing, or it's just not something that we have to deal with. And that's just something that even extends to say like accessibility and things where, non-touch interface and non-touch interactions tend to get deprioritized because it's harder and it's not a right thing, but a lot of these kind of things that are not, again, high ROI, high engagement from users tend to get put on the back burner. So what I would like to see, and what I hope this means is that as, things like Bard, ChatGPT, the way that if we're moving towards a different way of interacting with our devices, that will necessitate developers, designers, PMs, thinking about what is the app experience? What is an app anymore? And I can see that being a very kind of top-down change in how we approach things. It'll probably start with like, okay, how do we integrate? How do we make, our app work better with Bard? Maybe we don't have to. Maybe Bard or whatever other, AI chatbot will figure things out. But then it also goes to how can we maintain like how can we maintain the consistency and the integrity of our app experience when, Barb will just figure out how to do stuff, you know what I mean? And figure out how we can maintain a brand experience. Like there's always really interesting questions that will that change when the way that you interact with a thing changes. And I can kind of see that being something that we're all going to have to think about and start to take more into account. I'm all for things like widening the accessibility of technology for people. We should be doing more with that now with TalkBack, with mobility devices, all the kind of these different avenues we have for communicating with people via devices. And this is just going to speed that up because we're taking leaps and bounds with talking to our devices in a more natural way. So that's kind of my not quick 2 to 3 minute rant on. I think it's going to be it's going to change how we design and think about apps and hopefully make them more accessible in the positive light. I think there's like a slew of other negative things too that we'll have to think about, like liability. I think Flo wrote about this and kind of had some good, I think, thought experiments on what are the negative impacts of this as a user and otherwise. But yeah, it'll definitely change how we do things. We're all going to have to care about this at some point, I think.
For sure. So thank you, Win. That's a great point of view.
Yeah.
I hate to make you talk more, but I know this next story is right up your alley, though, in terms of the Win bingo card.
Sorry. So I love Google Keep and I love foldables, and kind of in the vein of making, the various Google Workspace apps, whether that's slides, sheets, and notes, kind of more conducive to large screen experiences, because that's kind of like been a big focus for Google, is who do we get to use large screens, who do we get to use foldables, and a lot of that has been kind of productivity workspace, right? People that might be, like warehouse workers, like kind of like day-to-day things where you're carrying around spreadsheets, you're carrying around, a larger, surface area, and being able to leverage that surface area. So there's been a lot of stuff on Google Workspace and making them more, conducive or more finely tuned experiences for Android tablets. So Google Keep, along with having, better widgets, we've talked about their kind of enhanced, like double pane UI that's meant to take advantage of the large space, is now letting you open notes side by side. So you now, with Google Keep on Android tablets and foldables, will be able to open, notes side by side, so that, if you're taking notes, you kind of compare things. I do this a lot in my everyday, where maybe I'm like, I have a bunch of, I don't know, it always comes back to working out with me. I have like my workout plan on the left side, and then like if I have kind of notes for my coach, like, oh, this felt weird, or hey, I got like 3 unassisted pull-ups, which I did today, yay. You'll be able to kind of make more use of the space, right? Because that's one thing that happens a lot with large screens, is that content's only so big. Large screens got a lot of space, so how can we kind of create a higher visual density? And then to go along with that, and again, in the theme of making these productivity apps more useful on large screens, you're going to get full mouse support on slides and sheets, which is something that has been available in 12L for a while, but is, again, kind of, it reminds me of the story we did like 2 weeks ago, Ron, where we talked about Pocket Casts finally supporting watches, and you're like, too little, too late. I won't say that here, but it does feel like finally, Google bringing their productivity apps to another level, with these screens that, have a large, I think, use case for productivity, or a large, there's a lot of space there for them to get some engagement, market share, however you want to call it, insert business term here, with large screens and folks that use productivity apps. So anyway, there you go. If you're on Google Workspace and have a large screen, have you some fun with Google Keep and, side-by-side notes and all the other features that are making your large screen life better.
Awesome. Matteo, how do you feel about the upcoming tablet revolution that's coming?
I've been waiting for it for a while. I'm a bit of a tablet enthusiast.
Yes.
But it's good to see the signals are there that Google is getting ready for the complete relaunch of Android on tablets. Until we see the upcoming Pixel tablet, it's still under shroud, but we see little things here and there. We see Honor with the Honor Pad 8, which I'm currently using as my main tablet computer, have already solved a lot of the UI issues within Magic UI to make the tablet usable as a productivity tool, and also mirror or have a window onto your phone from the tablet. So having seen what Honor is doing and what likely Google is refining at the moment, I think we're in for the year of the Android tablet 2023. Having said that, in Google Keep, I had a note that because I had reached out to someone at Google about the naming Bard. Last week we talked about, or you talked about Bard and the what Bard stands for. Now, have you heard of the infinite monkey theorem?
No, enlighten us.
So the infinite monkey theorem states that a monkey hitting keys at random on a typewriter keyboard for an infinite amount of time will almost surely...
in a room with typewriters,
will almost surely type any given text, such as the complete works of William Shakespeare. Now, William Shakespeare is also known as the Bard of Avon. So I think that what Google's hinting at with the name Bard... Whoops, one of my phones fell. I think that what Google's hinting at is that in this case, they have access to most of what's on the internet. They have the infinite monkeys. They're eventually going to hit Bard entity.
If anybody could do it, I imagine they would, and then
Yes.
they'll rewrite Hamlet, and then we'll all be better for it.
So that's the hint I was given, but that's just one take. Who knows? Only the real Googlers know.
Yeah, we'll find. Time will tell. I also want
fun
to know
fact.
what.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
Not you, Win. Fun fact.
Oh, fun fact. That's why my website is randomly typing, because I figure I'm a code monkey. There's not infinite of me, but I'm infinitely typing on a keyboard, and hopefully at some point, something interesting will come out of it. So that was why my website's called randomly typing. Sorry, that was.
There you go.
Win
Look at
trivia
it.
for
Bringing it
you.
around. Love it.
So you could be the Bard of Colorado.
I could. Oh, that's a lovely title. I like that very much.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's got a ring to it.
Like I wander around the mountains and sing. I don't sing, but perhaps I play a lute or something similar. Anyway.
Alrighty, so we're moving right along. I know this has been a fun night with Matteo, but we're gonna take a quick time out to hear from our good friend JR Raphael of Android Intelligence, as he's got another super simple tip for using YouTube on Android. So JR, take it away.
Well, hello there. Great to see everyone as always. So last week we talked about 2 easy ways to give yourself a better YouTube experience on Android. This week I want to pick up right where we left off with that, and I want to show you one more super simple step you can take to make watching videos on your phone about a zillion times more pleasant. It's a highly scientific measurement, let me tell you. So here it is. Prepare to have your mind blown. Few mere mortals realize it, but YouTube's probably showing you grainy, low-quality videos instead of crisp, clear goodness most of the time on your phone. This was a major wake-up call for me when I stumbled onto this a little while back. And here's the explanation. The YouTube Android app has an option for video quality that's typically on an auto setting by default. Now, that's supposed to adjust to give you the best experience for your conditions at any given moment, as Google puts it. But more often than not, it seems to result in most videos getting dumbed down to a disappointing 480p resolution. Translated out of geek speak, that means fuzzy wuzzy bad. Sorry, I've been spending a little too much time around my children lately. The good news, though, is that this is incredibly easy to fix. Just prance your way into the YouTube app settings by tapping your profile picture in the upper right corner of the app on your phone, and then selecting Settings in the panel that pops up. Tap Video Quality Preferences in the main settings menu. And in the Video Quality on Wi-Fi section, change the option from Auto to Higher Picture Quality. Now, I'd suggest leaving the setting on auto for mobile network connections, unless you've got a truly unlimited data plan without any asterisks attached. But with Wi-Fi, it's well worth your while to treat your eyes to the better quality video and let that stunning screen of yours shine. And there you have it, one setting, 15 seconds of effort, and an infinitely improved Android YouTube experience. It's one heck of a deal. Hey, speaking of phenomenal deals, if you haven't signed up for my Android Intelligence newsletter yet, hoo boy, are you missing out? You'll get 3 new things to try in your inbox every Friday, all sorts of super useful stuff. 1 email a week from me to you, all for the oh-so-affordable price of $0. Doesn't get much better than that. Head over to androidintel.net/twit to get your first issue and get a few extra bonus tips now. That site, again, is androidintel.net/twit. We'll keep the YouTube theme going next week with a look at some spectacular hidden shortcuts sprinkled throughout the YouTube Android app. They're some of my all-time favorite discoveries, some of the tricks I use more than any other in my own day-to-day life. Hopefully they'll be useful for you, too. We'll pick up there soon. For now, back to you, gang.
Alrighty, well, thank you, JR. That's a nice, handy YouTube trick there. I need to adjust that on my side as well, because I do watch YouTube on my phone a lot. So go to androidintelligence.net/twit and check out all of JR's great, awesome Android Intelligence. And with that, we've got some emails from you, the community. So let's get into emails next.
Sorry. Is that what is that the sound of an infinite number of goats typing on a keyboard?
Yeah. Matteo, how many goats does it take to recreate the work of the bard?
I have no idea, but it's an interesting thing I'll have to look into. Goats, and obviously we need to define which bard, the Bard of Colorado or the Bard of Avon.
We'll see.
Take less time for me.
So you can get in on the action. You can email us at AAA@twit.tv. And when you got the first one, so take it away.
Yeah, so our first email comes from Hilton Young. Hi, AAA fan. Do you guys have any inside info on what Google plans to do for its customers who have Nest Secure? I have heavily invested in the entire Google ecosystem and spent $500 on the system. And today they sent an email saying they were going to end the Brinks monitoring at the end of the year. Is Google planning on giving us a refund like they did with Stadia? Why did I say it like that? Stadia. Are they going to make the Nest Secure hardware work with ADT since they appear to have bought into that company? I need answers, and Google tech support isn't helping. I'm assuming they are slammed with people wondering the same thing, so they can't handle the call volume as it goes. I'm a Google fanboy who has a Pixel, Nest Secure, Yale Lock, Nest Cams, Google Home in every iteration. It feels like Google wants me to get Samsung and Amazon instead. Say it ain't so. Keep up the good work. Hilton Young. Hilton, you certainly are a very loyal Google fanboy in your investment in Nest Secure. But it does sound like there were some articles, I think, recently from 9 to 5 Google, basically about Google and ADT together launching kind of like a DIY security system. And it's meant to work with the existing Google or Nest hardware. But I mean, the Nest Secure was its own kind of set of like security keypad and things like that too, right? I'm not as familiar with the Nest Secure, but it does seem like they are kind of going in on their partnership with ADT. It's someone can like correct me if I'm mistaken. I don't see much mention here about Nest Secure. So I think there's still options for you to, integrate, with ADT and your Nest Cams and, kind of some of your other like Nest devices, but I'm not exactly sure where Nest Secure fits in this ecosystem right now. So
yeah, it's another mystery. Yeah, I know a lot of people really liked it, but it's leaving lots of open questions for sure. So.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because obviously, I feel like many of us Android faithful have had this, I don't know, buyer's remorse, but more like once bitten, a heck ton shy about investing in Google things, and then kind of them, taking a very hard turn to some other partnerships, some other things. So I hope that's not the case. I would just kind of maybe see what this ADT this ADT DIY self-serve kind of security system is, and hopefully there's a place for your Nest Secure and related peripherals in it. If not, I don't. Yeah.
Yep.
The Google
$500 is a lot of money. You could
It
buy a
is a lot of
Unihertz
money.
tank and use it in self-defense.
You could
with
almost
the lanyard.
That's like 2.5 tanks, right? Or 2 2/3 tanks. So
Yes, you
Anyway,
can have one in each hand.
with lanyards, yeah. So all right, well, we'll definitely stay tuned, and Hilton, if Google does refund you, let us know. Hopefully they do, because that is not cool. So. All right, our next email comes from Joey, who says, "Hey, all about Android crew. I love the show. Big fan." Thank you, Joey. I do want to comment on the RCS discussion. I do agree that Apple should support it. I also agree that companies should pressure them, but I don't think Google should be one of those companies. Google has over 10 different messaging clients in the last 10 years. They get all excited about something, then they kill it. Apple has had one messaging product called iMessage. Google has no credibility in discussion. They do more to hurt the discussion than they do to help it. Whether you like Apple or you don't, they stick with things, and when Google doesn't, and consumers know that us in the tech community all the time talk about should consumers jump on the latest thing Google gets excited about, like Inbox or Stadia, and then eventually in 18 months kill it. So all this advertising and how Apple should move to RCS that's coming from Google, to me, just brings me back to the past where I get excited about a Google product and adopt it, and then they would kill it. I don't think Google should comment on this. I think Google needs to focus on making the next product they're going to announce and then kill it in 18 months. let other companies that have a history of sticking with things, they announce pressure Apple, not Google. Thank you for the wonderful show. And Joey, you share and echo a sentiment that is absolutely right, which is that Google does not have a lot of earned credibility in the space because of their, move fast and break things and develop and discontinue and roll into the next thing and kind of go like that. And they have, we've seen the killed by Google graveyard that shows that. And I'm sure somebody from Google would have an intelligent response as to why they operate in that way. But you're right. Google does take a lot of flack, and it does weaken their argument in arguing for RCS, but it doesn't mean that they're wrong. And also in the space, when you say somebody else should pick up, who's going to do it? Samsung? No. You know what I mean? Like, who else has the clout to pressure Apple in that direction or not, other than Google? Like, you don't see the carriers doing it. The carriers tried and failed. So I definitely think you've got, your point is valid, but I also think that there's really nobody else in the space too. I mean, Matteo, how do you feel about the Google's peer pressuring Apple campaign to adopt RCS? Do you think it was effective or cringy?
From the outside, from outside the US, it looked a little bit like infighting over something that's pretty much no longer relevant. Between WhatsApp, Telegram, WeChat, KakaoTalk, I think globally most people have moved away from text messaging. Text messaging or SMS used to be a mainstay of the telecoms industry, but because the phone companies kept the pricing relatively high, it's essentially we've moved over to internet messaging that's not related to SMS, and the RCS conversation is pretty much redundant. It's the swan song of messaging over the network itself. I think we're moving into internet service-based messaging, and that's where things are really interesting. So from the outside, it looked a bit interesting to me. It was good to see a bit of posturing, but I think that's pretty much what it is. The real people with power here are the networks, the likes of Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and all the other network operators around the world. They're the ones who can make the final decision and just make it happen. Apple will have no choice if the networks decide to side with Google. But I think it's, at this point, a pretty redundant conversation. Sorry, is that a bit too grumpy of me?
No,
not too grumpy.
I personally, yeah, sorry. I always think it's also, I think we do mention it a healthy amount on the show, but that a lot of this is a very North American, or very we have a very U.S. centric point of view of these things. And obviously the U.S. is a huge market, but as you mentioned, a lot of countries have their own local, messaging services that they develop, both business and culture around, KakaoTalk, Line, all that kind of thing. And it's weird because these are also heavily tech centric countries like Korea, Japan. And so it's interesting to kind of always think about these conversations in the context of the broader world. And regardless of what happens with RCS, is there some future where the conversation is still going to include more than just, us text messaging or text message carrying us RCS impacted folks, I guess, or more impacted folks. So I don't know. I think it was a good point to bring up.
All right, Wynn, you get to wrap us up now.
I do, and it is time for the email of the week. And the email of the week comes to us from South Carolina, from Daryl Hilson. I have been a huge fan of AAA since nearly the very beginning and look forward to each weekly episode. Great work, everyone, and I appreciate the fun and hard work that you all share each week with the viewer and listener community. Last week in episode 623, an email from Joseph indicated that he couldn't get the March 2023 OTA security update on his Pixel 6a, even though it was available and rolling out. There is a way to force an OTA update onto your device, but it is not necessarily something that every user may feel comfortable with doing. I found a video from 9 to 5 Google on YouTube that I use to walk through sideloading the OTA onto my Pixel phones whenever I don't want to wait for the carrier rollout of the monthly Pixel update for my phone, or waiting for the slow optimization process when using the normal check for update process. I hope this helps Joseph and others in the audience who may be comfortable with attempting this process. Thanks everyone for your hard work and dedication to the audience and bringing some weekly fun talking about Android, and have a blessed day. Regards, Daryl Hilson from South Carolina. And here is Daryl's hot tip on the 9 to 5 Google 9 to 5 Google walkthrough on side loading the OTA. And yeah, so definitely if you're like Joseph and you just need you some security update, and for kind of like helping out some fellow Android faithful, Daryl Hilson. That is why you're our email blue. Sorry, Ron. My bad.
I love the community helping one another.
Yes.
It definitely is neat to see, folks chiming in, and especially given the April update is late, maybe somebody's going to need to side load it. So there it is. So yeah, very cool. So good one. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this evening. Matteo, thank you so much for stopping by, for sitting in Jason's big chair.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you after they listen to the show? Where can they follow you in your adventures, Matteo?
Well, you can follow me on most social media channels, including the Twit social mastodon, on my handle, which is Todoleo. That's Tango Oscar Delta Oscar Lima Echo Oscar. My videos are uploaded to our YouTube channel, the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel. You can find that on YouTube and subscribe and like. It's always appreciated. We mainly cover consumer electronics and gadgets we think make the travel experience better.
The chief mobile
So you can subscribe there. It's a bit of fun. It's great fun to review devices. We tend to take longer to review devices so that we experience the updates and the longer life of a product. But if you're interested, subscribe to us there. That's where you'll see most of the content we create. There's also some travel stuff, such as the videos my wife and I have been making whilst out here in California. And our chief aperture officer, the other side of Tech Travel Geeks, he is currently about to go on his honeymoon to Bali, and he's going to be taking another mid-range musketeer smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, with him. So be sure to be subscribed if you want to see more of that type of content.
Right on. Cool. Well, thank you, Matteo. It is always great.
Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, we miss you. You got to come back. Don't wait a year before you come back, okay? When Jason gets back, we're going to make sure we get you back in the rotation here, okay?
Concur.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure being on the show with you, Gwen.
You too, Matteo. Yeah. It was.
So, Wynn, why don't you tell folks where they can follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on the internet at Queen Code Monkey. And as mentioned before, my website, Randomly Typing, has a lot of my Android-related content. If you are a person of the continent like Matteo, you actually can see me live on the Kotlin Conf live stream next week. I'm headed out to Amsterdam on Saturday. That's why I'm going to be out next week. So I'm going to Kotlin Conf, which is the official JetBrains conference for all things Kotlin. I'm going to be both giving a talk as well as doing live stream interviews with some of the fantastic speakers at Kotlin Conf. So if you are, again, of the continent and want to check things out live, you can. If not, wait for the videos later if you're not of the continent. And yeah, generally you can find this infinitely typing code monkey in the aforementioned places. But it was an absolute pleasure to finally get to do a show with you, Matteo. So please come back soon when I'm here.
Will do.
That's my demand.
And if you're at Kotlin Conf, it's likely our friend Yolanda Verhoef will be there. She was also here on All About Android a few years ago with me. Say hello from us.
I absolutely 120% went. When you said her name, I was like, oh, I got to say something next week.
Nice. Right on. All right, cool. And of course, everybody can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. Always a pleasure to see people on the social network. Appreciate it. Huge thanks to JR Raphael of Android Intelligence for giving us a tip every week and bringing a great t-shirt game. Go to androidintelligence.net/twit to check out more of his Android tips. And a big welcome back to Victor in studio, joining Burke, keeping everything moving smoothly behind the scenes. Thank you, Victor and Burke, for doing your thing. We appreciate it. Welcome back, despite the goats, Victor.
Thanks, Ron.
I'm counting.
But if Matteo keeps coming back, I might run out of goat bumper ideas.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, we got to be careful. So
thanks, Burke. Thanks, Victor. It was you really made me feel welcome.
And not only did they make you feel welcome, but there was fantastic pre-show banter that you get to watch only by tuning in when we broadcast live every Tuesday afternoon, or you could join Club Twit, which is a great way to get involved with Twit. It's our ad-free subscription tier. All of our shows with 0 ads. Also an exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content like our pre-show banter, which is always fun. And a members-only Discord that you get to participate in and chat with all the great staff and fans over at Twit. The Discord is really where it's at. It costs you just $7 per month, or you can pay a full year for $84 to get access to Club Twit. We thank everybody for doing that. Head to twit.tv/clubtwit and sign up today. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. It was a great show. Great having Matteo back. Jason will be back next week. Quinn won't be here. I'll be here. We'll have lots more Android fun stuff, so it's going to be good. This podcast publishes every Tuesday evening. Make sure you subscribe at twit.tv/AAA. You can call in with a voicemail at 347-SHOW-AAA, or you can always shoot us an email, AAA@twit.tv. We'd love to hear from you. Send in your video or voicemails via email. Keep them 30 seconds or shorter to get on the show. But it's always great to hear you. You might be the email of the week. And with that, there's the bell. It's going to wrap us up. We'll see you next time on All About Android. Have a good night or day.
Bye, everyone.
Hooray.
Hey, I know you're super busy, so I won't keep you long, but I wanted to tell you about a show here on the Twit network called Tech News Weekly. You are a busy person, and during your week, you may want to learn about all the tech news that's fit to, well, say, not print, here on Twit. It's Tech News Weekly. Me, Micah Sargent, my co-host, Jason Howell. We talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news, and we love the opportunity to get to share those stories with you and let the people who wrote them or broke them share them as well. So I hope you check it out every Thursday right here on Twit.